In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint a tree. First, I'm going to show you how most people paint trees when they're just beginning. And this is how I used to paint trees. And then I'm going to show you a better way. Just give you some of the foundational things to think about so that you can move on and paint more trees, more rocks. You can paint mountains, you can paint birds, planes, you can paint anything you want. So before we get started, it would be great if you help me grow my channel so I can get out and reach more people out there who want to learn just some of the foundational basics of how to paint. So I'm doing a quick time lapse of painting this very simplified tree like a beginner artist might paint, just to have a comparison to how the things that you can do to create the painting of a tree that you actually really love. The first thing you want to do when you're painting a tree and anything else is don't paint on a white background. Put down a tone. This is raw umber. Get an earth tone in there. Start out with raw umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber. Any one of those, just to get started with toning your canvas. So you let that sit for a while. The reason why you want to tone your canvas is so that you can gauge your colors better. The first thing we want to do is just begin to lay in the basic shape of the tree. I'm not going to worry about composition in this. We're just worried about painting the tree. So I'm approaching this with straight lines. So it is important, the first thing to do is to get that tree shape. You can even just do it this way and not even bother with that. So get the basic shape of the tree. Okay. Rule number one, when you are painting trees, one side of the tree needs to be very different from the other side of the tree. Even if the tree is a round tree, like this one, you will paint it differently. Find ways to variegate the shape to make it different. We'll get the horizon line about there. The trunk and the shadow area there. All right, so this is your basic. You can already see that it's already more interesting just because the shape is different. Let's just get rid of that. So you can see that the general shape and design is different. Now, first of all, what I like to do is I start from the sky and then come forward. So I am going to start with the sky. Here's the thing about mixing your colors. You want to mix grays. A gray is a mixture of the three primary colors, or red, yellow, and blue. Will be a gray, even if it doesn't look like a typical gray that beginners usually think of, the color gray. it will in fact be gray. It will be a grayed down version of blue. So let's add, take some of the blue here and then bring it down here, sky color. And the opposite, usually to put in a tone, to tone down a blue, you would use the complementary color. And the complementary color of blue is orange. So I need to mix up an orange here on the palette. So I'm going to do that here. So you see how little I'm going to add into this blue. To tone it down. Okay. So as you can see, I'm mixing 3 different values, a darker one, a medium one, and a lighter one. Because the sky works in, it has different values to it depending on where it is. If you look at the photo reference, you can see that way on the horizon line, the blue that is there is much lighter than the blue that is up at the top of the image. So we're gonna copy that. And as I come down, I'm going to go lighter. I'm going to cut in there. Then down here by the horizon line, you can see how light the blue becomes because of the way that the dome of the sky works. The horizon line is always lighter. And not, you know, it's not a strong white. So I'm also going to be painting a little bit into the tree, to the design of it. Okay. So you can see the difference between the ultramarine blue and white on its own and mixed with a little bit of orange and how that just tones the blue back. It's just not as blue. And we do not need to have it be this bright, bright, bright blue sky. And that may be what you're looking at. It may be. And still, you want to mix a gray, meaning you want to add a little bit of the complementary color to tone that blue down. So I'm going to get a greenish color, and I'm not going to use the Viridian green. I'm not even going to touch it. When you're using a limited palette, you can mix your own greens, and they work quite beautifully. So rather than going with a yellow, I'm going to go with a yellow ochre. And you'll see that it mixes a dull down green. And that is what you are looking for. So I'm going to get just this basic color in. And even begin to um, let the brush kind of push off. And I'm going to mix the ultramarine blue with the raw umber, because raw umber is kind of a greenish color. It's a greenish earth tone and can work really well for the shadow areas. And squinting down, you can kind of see how these shadows are playing out. If you go back to painting lemons and learning about to paint form, you can see that here as well we have the shadow side of the lemon and moving around to the light side. Although we're not doing any highlights, we're not doing anything, we're just getting the basic local color in. And do the same for this ground plane. I'm going to go ahead and spread that out. Okay, now I'm just going to go in and add the ground color. So the mistake that's happening in this painting here is that the tree highlight area is lighter than the ground area. And generally speaking, when you have the sun coming in, like a mid-morning sun, which is happening here, the tree, because it's standing upwards, is going to be darker. The value is going to be darker than the light that's hitting the ground. So the ground is almost always going to be much lighter than the highlight side of the tree. So we've got to keep that in mind. And even though this is a very light foreground, the intensity of the color is really, really strong. So I'm going to mix up, I'm going to tone it back with yellow ochre so that we're not getting this bright, bright, bright yellow. I'm just putting it in with a palette knife to get some variegation in the colors. And this green that I use for the trees, I can add in here. And by mixing it into the yellow, this really begins to tone it down, but this gives some interest. So right now we've got something that's not working. And if you squint down, the yellow is a lighter value than the sky. So we need to, the sky will always be, almost always, again, remember there are different situations, but in a mid-morning sunlight situation, blue skies, this is pretty much how it's going to work. So we are going to need to lighten up the sky. Let's see if we've got, okay. just by taking the sky color that I mixed up now and bringing it into what's already there, brings it into the right color value. So now that we have something to work with, let's start shaping the tree. I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use this brush here. Generally speaking, we have one area here, we have one here, and then this back area here. And if you look at the photo reference, they're all basically the same size. So we can't paint it that way. It will look off. It won't look right to a viewer's eye. So I'm going to go in with the ultramarine blue and raw umber for the darks again, and just kind of get them more established. And we want to begin to get the sky holes put in. And we're going to do that in a minute. For now, we want to get the basic shape of this tree. Okay. So you can see, even with that, the tree is beginning to take shape. This area here, if you squint down and look at the tree, is more yellow. So if I'm going to take this mix here with yellow ochre and blue, and add a little bit of yellow, cad yellow, it's got a nice and adding a little bit of the quinacridone to just tone things down. Okay, And you can see here that this side of the tree in the light is darker than the ground, and the sky is lighter than the ground. So we have this play. Uh, the lightest part of the painting will be the sky area. The sun hitting down on the ground will lighten up the ground area, and then the tree. So trees are almost always darker, um, almost always. There will be a couple areas we can add. Just to get a little bit more differentiation in the values. So you can see the difference between the two and how easy it is to actually begin to paint a tree in a very realistic way. Add a little bit. You don't want it going up all the way to the side because it's got the shadow from the tree. Now, to do sky holes, you have your sky color here. Sky holes will always be darker than the sky that you're painting around. So like you can see this sky hole here, it really does stand out. So it's a good idea to darken it. It's not going to be that much, but it will be enough. You don't want to put too many in. Just a few. Oh my God, that was fun. So you can see here the differences between the two. When you take these basic rules, quote unquote, because all rules need to be broken, but you use them as a place to start to begin to understand how it all comes together. And if you're using a tree and you learn how to do a simple tree like this one with this kind of lighting, mid-morning light, then when you add a rock, you'll know to do the same. Or when you add another tree, you'll know to do the same. And maybe you want to add a house or a person or an animal, and you'll know to do the same. It's all the same tactics, all the things that we learned in this tree here. And you can add it and use those same techniques on any other subject that you're adding into your painting. That's what makes painting fun. And also, that's what makes painting available to everyone. It's not rocket science, you guys. It's basic math. And it's kind of cool because we all think of the artistic world as something out there and everything and blah, 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 blah. But painting is really some basic things that you need to follow. Once you get the groundwork for it, then you can take off and explore new realms. That's it for today. Be inspired, be creative, be you.